You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hello, People Centric listeners. Welcome to the People Centric Podcast. I am today's host, MC extraordinaire, facilitator, humble that I am, Philip Herzog, engagement consultant here. We also have with us the one and only Stephanie Anderson. Stephanie, how do you want to introduce yourself today?
Well, gosh, I liked MC extraordinaire. Can I steal that one? Like the greatest MC? I don't know. That seems really cool.
Let's be clear. It's extraordinaire, not the only. I feel like we're surrounded by many. Someone actually, this is an aside. Someone recently said, we have a nonprofit fundraiser. Would there be someone on your team who would want to MC? And I was like, oh, Stephanie, Dawn, or me, right? So among many.
Give me a mic and I will talk to a rock. Like I could talk forever. Like I love it. Give it to me. And it'll be good too, I think. I don't think I'm like
it would be funny.
Too blind to that myself.
I would add the singing. I was going to introduce you as like a chef extraordinaire. Today's theme, culture. Many things make up culture. Your people, your habits, your systems. We got a lot of culture around here. We also have the one and only Diana Royalty, proud dog mom.
Yeah.
Kick butt executioner when it comes to making things happen, as we've talked about. You execute well. What else? How else would you describe the Diana Royalty?
I don't know. You said the one and only, and I'm pretty sure I am. I don't think there's any other Diana Royalty. I don't think so. Royalty is not a common last name, but you said one and only Stephanie Anderson, and I was like, no, I bet there's 50.
Listen, Linda, there's a lot of us. And Anderson is my married last name, and my maiden name was super unique. Yeah. And I used to be only like one of 7 or 8 of me in the United States. And then I went to Anderson, and now there's a gajillion of me. So I don't have regrets, but maybe just a tiny bit, because I used to have such a unique name. I used to be able to say I'm like one of 8 in the United States, and now
I don't know. I don't know. I have not run into another one of me.
I've never met another you.
Yeah. So
unless they're in an alternate universe, we have not met them yet. Although I wonder sometimes if Diana is from an alternate universe. And Stephanie, now you are one of, I'll introduce you next time, one of 3.7 million. But
I'm
our
not
favorite,
one in a million.
Stephanie.
I'm one of a million. I feel so loved, so special. Find me in the multiverse.
You are our Stephanie Anderson, and that's what matters.
That's it. The one and only of our Stephanie. Our Stephanie Anderson. Our Stephanie.
I feel like the first couple minutes of this podcast is for the true listeners. Like if you've really listened and you know our personalities, you're appreciating this section. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the club. This is who we are. We're going to talk about something cool, but this is the fun part.
This is important and I think perfectly makes sense, because today we're talking about culture. How do you measure it? We have clients all the time who will bring up points about the culture, the vibes, feedback. They don't know what to do. What do our people think? What do our people need? Maybe I have a great sense of my team as a leader, but have you ever had that leader moment where you get information, whether it was a face someone made or a question someone asked, and it makes you realize, oh, we're completely misaligned. Everything I thought I knew to be true about where we were going may have some holes in it. Actually, am I the one that's misaligned with everyone else? So that leads to questions about how do you measure engagement? It's hard to measure and yet very, very valuable. And so today we're taking a lot of time to talk about engagement surveys. I always say culture, how do you pick up on culture? as a team professionally? What does that look like? It's buzzy. Lots of people are talking about engagement surveys. And so we wanted to download our experience because we often have different forms of surveys we give with clients. We're also good, I think, at walking in a room and picking up on culture. Many, many times we have a very thorough, rigorous process, but even before our results are in, we will sometimes just say, what do we see? What do we perceive? What do we think the results will be from the wider team? Are there different departments we think will have different themes? And I'll tell you, often we are pretty good at getting a feel and perceiving what is going on around. So my first question to the one and only Diana Royalty, to our Stephanie Anderson: why and when is an engagement survey helpful?
That's a great question. And I like this topic a lot because obviously we're consultants and you're probably like, oh, you guys are just gaga for surveys over there. And we maybe are just a little bit if we're honest, but I also think like it is something that is now so standard in business and especially in like the larger corporate world in our country to do these surveys. And I think the question you just asked is such like a real one, Philip, and honest, because I think a lot of employees are even like, why are we doing this stupid thing? And I don't care if I'm entered in the raffle for the $10 Starbucks gift card. I'll go get my own Starbucks, right? So why would you actually do it? I think the maybe most pure or real reason is to actually get feedback from your employees, right? If you are a medium to large, or especially if you're a very large company, it's hard to actually get a pulse on how everyone in the company is doing, what maybe the larger population of your workforce thinks about certain things, how they would rate you and your leadership team on things like strategy and communication, some things in your people systems, like how are we training, how are we onboarding, how are we hiring, how do you think we're doing? So I think in its most pure form, it really is just a very simple way to collect feedback in an organization where you probably don't have the ability to like actually go one-to-one and get that from everybody. Like I think about us at People Centric, we're a small team, so we don't survey ourselves because it'd be pretty easy for Dawn and Diana or Bethany to come to me and Philip and Ashley and be like, what do you think? Tell us your feedback, right? If you only had to meet with 3 to 5 people, you wouldn't need to do a survey. But many of you exist in organizations that are so much larger than that. So I think that's the purest why of why you would do it. But there's a lot of other whys too, I think, that organizations do surveys.
I think we're a society that loves data. There's something about leaders who are like, well, I just need the data, right? And so there's this collection of data that we're trying to get to, whether we do anything with that data or not. We're collecting it. We're collectors of information. And I think, just American society is like, let's gather and look at the data. And so I think that's another big why as to why we've been doing this. And Gallup, the main collector of this like culture employee data, has been doing it for 30 years now, maybe longer. I don't know. I'd have to look, but a really long time. And they've used the same questions for 20 years or something. So they just have like this vast amount of data that they keep sharing and putting out. And I think we kind of have gotten sort of used to that collection and information, having that readily available.
That is so powerful, Steph. I loved the unpacking the why and the timing and the size. I think surveys make a lot of sense for teams that are maybe 20 people more, where it's just hard enough to find a consensus, or where it'd take a lot of time to meet with everyone one-on-one. And then, Diana, to your point, there is something about we like data, and I think it helps people see it all at one time. We often compare our survey. We say it's a little bit like going to the dentist. We're going to check all these different things and then right at the same time say, okay, this is how it works. Our survey is unique in that it looks at all of the systems. You've heard us talk about our people-centric framework and our systems. So we have questions that use some best practice from Gallup, but we also ask about strategy, about your people, about your leadership, communication, and the humans you have. And so where do you think these things fall so that we're comparing apples to apples across all teams? and departments. So curious for you all, where would you say when we are starting to implement an engagement survey, what are some of the best practices that we do or that you recommend when someone goes in to start an engagement survey? How do they share it with their team? How do they get buy-in and engagement? What are our tips and tricks to make it go well and also glean valuable information?
Oh man, Stephanie's gonna have a lot to say on this. I know it. I know it. You guys as consultants have a lot to say on this. I know it. I think the thing when I go to do a survey, if one of my friends was like, "Hey, I got this survey, should I do it?" I think my main points would be, yes, you should do it, but you should do it knowing that you still need to be professional and that you shouldn't put anything in the survey that you wouldn't say to your manager. So if you're afraid to say it in person, maybe don't put it in the survey, right? Like stay professional, stay on the level, and don't put anything in there that you wouldn't say to another human being. I know a lot of people worry about the anonymity, and that's not the part that I worry about. I just want people to stay above board. I want you to remain professional. I want you to do the right things so that your words have an impact. And I think you have the biggest impact when you say it well and say it in a way that you would say in person. So those are my like top few. But Stephanie, what do you have to say about it?
Oh, you know I've got thoughts. Yeah, a couple of things. I'll maybe start with just like if you're a leader getting ready to do a survey, how do you ask questions that actually get you the information that you want? And I think sometimes a common mistake I will see leaders make is the questions are too specific, right? Or you don't realize that the questions you're asking are actually leading questions that would confirm your hypothesis, so to say, that would confirm that the story you're telling yourself about the team is true right now, that you're right about what the problems are. Because we know, again, like if you start saying it's true in your brain's just going to look for evidence that it's true. We talked about that in a recent podcast as well. So I think from the leader standpoint, like think more of like your systems questions and ask the employees to evaluate your effectiveness on that. Not, do you like this? Did this go well? What do you want more of? Like, I think those are not great questions. So think about that. But then yes, to Diana's point, I think if you are an employee and your job has sent you a survey to take it. And I think sometimes there's the people who don't take the survey because we talk to people too. I think that's another pro tip is usually when we survey, we also do individual interviews with a random group of people around the company to just validate what we've heard in the survey. But I think like you need to take it because it is an opportunity to share feedback, right? Your leadership team is going to look at it. But to Diana's point, like, keep it professional. The employee survey is not the place to like air all your grievances. And we've seen this so many times. I wouldn't say every time we do a survey in a company, but often when we do a survey in the company, there's at least one person who really takes the opportunity to vent through the survey. And it never goes the way they hoped. I'll just say that. Because like, again, the anonymity and things like when we do surveys, it is anonymous and we talk about that with our teams. We talk about that with the companies that we work with, right? Where we say like, number one, we don't go looking for problems. So we don't just read through to see who said everything. We absolutely don't do that. And second, the only reason we would go digging is if someone shared something that kind of broke one of these three laws for us. It says they share something that would be a safety concern, a legal concern or an ethical concern. So we always will share the example, like if someone says something and they make a threat or harm to self or others, we will dig and find out who said it. Or if someone shares, hey, these OSHA safety things are not being followed on my team and it's putting people at risk. That's come up in that's a real example from stories. We found out who said that and shared it with them because people's lives were at risk. Or the legal one, if someone puts in the survey, which I've seen this before, I'm going to sue the organization and here's why. We will figure out who said that because you're about to sue them anyway. It's about to become public, to just really help maybe mitigate that situation. Or the ethics one, like if you tell us you are stealing money from the company in the survey. And again, when we share these examples, people always laugh. They're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yeah, it's not our first rodeo. And so what I would say is take it and be truthful, but this is not your place to just air grievances. Because I'll just say on the grievance side, when we see that employee who really is just like crap talking their manager or management through the survey, it never goes where they hope, right? Like I've seen leaders receive those messages and see the comments that you've left, and it's not changing their behavior in the way that you would want it to, right? It just comes across as angry or vindictive, and they're not hearing what you want them to hear. That's what I would say. They're not actually hearing what you want them to hear. They're just hearing that you're mad. And so if you actually have feedback about your manager or management, there's probably some clear HR channels you could go through to actually share that versus dumping it all in the employee survey. That would be my recommendation there. And I guess if you have nothing nice to say, maybe it is better to say nothing at all. I don't know. But I think you probably have some feedback that would be helpful. But just remember the vehicle you're putting that feedback in. This is not the catch-all everything. It's not going to come to your leaders and they're going to like hear and absorb every word and change everything about the company or everything you want them to change about how they lead based on that. So like your tone matters a lot. The words you use matter a lot when you give that type of feedback.
Yeah. I think leaders are just people too. And I think people forget that. And so to your point, Stephanie, the tone is really important. But like, if you're going to say your manager's an idiot, say it better than that, right? Like you can still say it, just say it better than that. Like, I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z instead of like, Philip is dumb, right? Like Philip's going to read the survey and he's going to ignore that. But if I was like, I'm worried about Philip's ability to retain information, that's a little bit different conversation, you know?
Oh, I think that's great. And yeah, sorry, Philip.
You're very smart.
Oh, thank you. Now, being called dumb is one thing, but then for someone to say, no, 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 you're very smart. That actually feels more painful. I am I? It's like, I wasn't questioning it. Now, wait a minute. I am?
So sorry.
Was that No, I hear you.
Wait, live and yes. I panic and I just pick a name.
I'm happy to be picked on. That's what I'm here for, really. That's everyone. You can't see me. This is a podcast, but I am blinking. I actually need help. I am wanting a survey. I have things to say, and I am not dumb is the first one. And the second is everyone else around here is dumb. That is the engagement survey we typically come across. The person who is Diana is jesting. She's joking, as is Steph. But I love that you guys both pointed out, because often when we hear someone very loudly, whether it's the quantity of their words, the capitalization of their words, some 4-letter words they use to say very big, important things to them. Diana, I love your point where you're saying, my response sometimes reading comments is like, wow, I hear you. Maybe I can understand a little bit, but are you trying to be helpful? Because sometimes I think people get feedback where you're like, if I was talking to you and you were just my friend, respondent, I would probably just say, why do you work here? You really don't like it here. What's really going on? And I love too. I have a personal thing I do, and we do all do this. Every survey, I make sure I read every comment. This is not always the most efficient, but I usually read every comment at least twice by the end of a survey. So I kind of just try to read them all at the start to get a take in. It's like as if I was in an assembly line of people talking to me. And then on the back end, I will go through and review. And it is really interesting because sometimes you have engaged people who have criticisms. Sometimes you have people who label themselves toxic. I do not agree with this organization, but who later say, but I love this place. And I actually promote it to the people around me. And I think Carol and Susie and Joey and Bobby and Diana and Stephanie are smart and great. You're like, oh, well, then there's another reason we must not have asked about then that makes them unhappy to say that I'm misaligned here. And so my last round out question for us then is, I love our approach of saying how to frame it. What are you really looking for? An engagement survey is just some information on a page if nothing is done with it. So other than the emotional moment of sharing these results with the leader, which is important, I think we do that really well. Curious, how would you all recommend, how can you make engagement surveys, feedback about overall culture, how can you make it useful and helpful, not only for leaders, but for their teams?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that you have to do something with it. I think too many of these surveys are done and then no one knows what comes of them. There's no feedback back. There's no loop to close the loop, right? It's just like I take this survey, I've taken it 15 times, nothing ever freaking changes around here, right? And I think that's really frustrating for the people taking the survey. And I think it's doing a disservice to all of the information you're gathering and the time people are taking to do this, and the money you're spending in your organization to get this data. Like, it's a disservice. So I think the first thing is do something with the information, even if that's just like hey guys, we got all this information. Here are the top 3 things we heard. It could be as simple as that, which ChatGPT will do for you. So I think it's one, do something. You should do something with it. And then I will also say that you don't have to do everything. I think when you get the survey and the data, there's like this analysis paralysis moment where you're just like, there's so much on here. So one person mentioned that they don't like the toilet paper. So I guess I need to go change the toilet paper. No, I would pull out general themes. The biggest themes are these 3 things. We're all overloaded. We all need more time. We all these are the 3 things that have come out of this, and work on those 3 things. And I would kind of lump stuff together like, 15 of my 20 people said that Susie has been abrasive lately. Okay, we need to look into Susie. What's going on with Susie? Like, there's something there. But one person said that Jack was mean. Okay, well, I'm probably not I don't need to look at Jack. I can do something with that later. So yeah, I think it's the do something, and you don't have to do everything. Those are my 2 big ones.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And what I'd add just from the employee perspective is like set realistic expectations for yourself too when taking the survey. Is like they're probably like your leadership team is not going to respond to every single comment and every single thing. To Diana's point, I think when leaders are evaluating this well, they're looking for themes. They're looking for where is their consensus from the larger group. And yes, if you share something ultra specific about Jack that is really concerning, yes, I think they'll look into it. But yeah, they're more looking, like Diana said, of like, where are we getting a lot of feedback about one specific thing or one specific problem, because they're going to look at, okay, what are the things that we could do that would make the largest impact for the team? So again, like as an employee, no, probably not everything you share or every piece of feedback you put in is going to get addressed or is going to get talked about, or it's not, may not get talked about first or right now. So don't just throw away the whole process in your mind and say that was done because what they started with wasn't what you wanted them to start with. So just keep that in mind. And I think have some grace for your leaders as they're going through that data. Is like they probably are sifting through a lot and trying to figure out what is going to make the greatest impact, what's going to help us move forward, what really would impact engagement. on the team versus, hey, yeah, this one person is unhappy about this. And I think, again, it ties it back to like, give good feedback. If Jack really is a problem and there's things going on with Jack, don't just put in the survey, Jack is the worst manager I've ever worked for. That's not helpful feedback for your leadership team. And I think we see that all the time. Like you make a simple sentence like, Jack is the worst manager I've ever worked for. Jack doesn't know what he's doing. Jack doesn't listen. Like, give more specifics. If Jack really is a problem, again, like Diana, I like how you framed that earlier of like, yeah, hey, I'm concerned because we will have these meetings and talk about these things. And then what happens is this, right? So tell that story, but not like hey, I'm mad. If you're mad, don't put it in the comments. We'll just maybe say that's a general. If you're just mad, if you can't think enough to think, okay, how could this best be received in this format by the people who are going to see it? If all you want to do is be like a keyboard warrior, the employee survey is not the place for it. Because again, I think I've talked about it, it's probably not going to get received as well. And you're not going to get the outcome that you hoped for.
I like us ending on this idea of outcomes because, Stephanie, you made the point early on. Okay, leaders or people choosing to have an engagement survey, why are you doing it? What are you hoping to get out of it? And I love your point. Are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing for this information to say you might be wrong or that your perception is off? Are you willing to go do work then afterward to help make the most important themes that float to the top, that are mentioned the most, that are most impactful to your mission and serving your clients and serving your team and being profitable? Are you willing to put those to the top and then do the work with your team to make these things happen? If not, you should not do an engagement survey. If you're doing it because it seems great and it's what everybody else is doing and you want to be cool, you want to be an employer of choice and they have to ask these goofy questions, but we all know what really goes on around here, then don't do it. You'll only make things worse. And there are more than one way to get information. So whether it's an engagement survey, other ideas you have of leaning in, that is something we work with people all the time. Do you know your team? Do you check in with them? Do you have one-on-ones? Do you have KPIs? Do you have a cadence? Do you know that your team members love to cook like Stephanie or love their dog Brock like Diana? There's a lot of pieces that go into culture. It's not just being friendly. It's not just taco bars, way more, but it is, I think, very often about knowing and being known in the workplace, in the culture that you're a part of. So if you have other ideas or questions about engagement surveys or topics that matter to you, that's what we're here for. Our day jobs is building training, building systems, and developing leaders. So I hope you lead well and be well today as you consider your own culture and how you can impact it.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.